There are journeys that begin thousands of miles from the bright lights of arenas, in places where basketball was just a distant dream, a whisper carried across oceans. Tonight, we rest with four stories of courage, perseverance, and triumph. Four players who traveled from distant lands to rewrite what was possible in the game of basketball. Let their legacies carry you gently into sleep. The story begins in Lagos, Nigeria, where a young boy named Hakeem Olajuwon was born on January 21, 1963. In the bustling streets of Nigeria's largest city, basketball was not the sport that captured young hearts. Soccer ruled the dusty fields. Team handball filled the schoolyards. Hakeem played both, his long limbs and natural athleticism making him a standout in whatever game he chose. But basketball? That came later, almost by accident, as if destiny was waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. At 15 years old, Hakeem attended a local tournament where basketball was being played. He had height, standing well over 6 feet as a teenager, and coaches saw something in his movements, a fluidity that could not be taught. They invited him to try the game. He had never held a basketball with any serious intent before that day, but within months, it became clear that this was no ordinary discovery. Hakeem possessed an instinctive understanding of spacing, timing, and movement that seemed to come from somewhere deep within him, perhaps from all those years of soccer footwork and handball coordination.
The raw talent was undeniable, but Hakeem needed training, structure, competition at a higher level. Word of this extraordinary teenager spread beyond Lagos, reaching the ears of coaches at the University of Houston in Texas. In 1980, at 17 years old, Hakeem Olajuwon boarded a plane to America, leaving behind everything familiar to pursue a dream that had only existed in his mind for 2 short years. He arrived in Houston speaking limited English, unfamiliar with American culture, and still learning the nuances of basketball that other players had spent their entire childhoods mastering. At the University of Houston, Hakeem joined a program that was about to become legendary. Alongside Clyde Drexler and other talented players, Houston formed a team that would be known as Phi Slama Jama, a nickname celebrating their high-flying, fast-paced style of play. Coach Guy Lewis built an exciting system, and Hakeem became the anchor in the middle, the shot blocker and rebounder who made everything work. In his sophomore year, 1982, Houston made it to the Final Four of the NCAA tournament. They returned in '83 and again in '84. 3 consecutive Final Four appearances. The nation was watching. But there was heartbreak too. In the 1983 championship game, Houston faced North Carolina State, a team that had barely made the tournament. The game came down to the final seconds. Houston missed opportunities. North Carolina State's Derek Whittenburg launched a desperate shot that fell short, but Lorenzo Charles caught it and dunked it at the buzzer. Houston lost. Hakeem, still developing as a player, felt the weight of that defeat. It would not be his last lesson in perseverance.
Still, NBA scouts had seen enough. In the 1984 NBA draft, Hakeem Olajuwon was selected first overall by the Houston Rockets. The same city where he had gone to college would now become his professional home. It seemed like destiny. But that draft class was historic. Michael Jordan went third. Charles Barkley went fifth. John Stockton went 16th. The pressure on Hakeem to justify that first pick was immense. And in those early years, despite his individual brilliance, the Rockets struggled to build a championship contender around him. Hakeem was putting up remarkable numbers. He could score with hook shots, turnaround jumpers, and powerful dunks. He blocked shots with timing that seemed supernatural. He moved his feet on defense like a guard trapped in a 7-footer's body. But the Western Conference was brutal. The Lakers had Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The Celtics in the East had Larry Bird. And as the years passed, questions grew louder. Could Hakeem ever lead a team to a championship? Was he tough enough? Was he clutch enough? He spent years answering those questions in silence, working on his game with an almost spiritual dedication. Hakeem was a devout Muslim, and his faith shaped everything about how he approached basketball and life. He fasted during Ramadan, even during the season, and still performed at an elite level. He developed a move that would become his signature, a series of fakes, pivots, and spins that left defenders grasping at air. People began calling it the Dream Shake, a name that perfectly captured its beauty and impossibility.
By the early 1990s, the Rockets had built a better team around Hakeem. They added veterans, shooters, defenders. In the 1993-94 season, everything came together. Hakeem won the MVP award, the Defensive Player of the Year award, and led the Rockets to the best record in the Western Conference. The playoffs arrived, and Hakeem was ready. Round by round, the Rockets advanced. They survived a grueling 7-game series against the Phoenix Suns in the second round. Then they defeated the Utah Jazz in 5 games to reach the NBA Finals. Their opponent was the New York Knicks, a physical, defensive-minded team led by Patrick Ewing, another great center who had also been in that legendary '84 draft. The series was a battle. Every game was close, tense, decided by a handful of possessions. Hakeem was magnificent. In Game 6, with the Rockets leading the series 3-2, Hakeem scored 25 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, and blocked 4 shots. The Rockets won, and Hakeem fell to his knees in gratitude. He had done it. After 10 years in the league, after all the doubts and questions, Hakeem Olajuwon was an NBA champion. He was named Finals MVP, but he was not finished. The following season, 1994 to 1995, the Rockets entered the playoffs as a lower seed. They were not expected to repeat, but Hakeem had found another level. The Rockets went on an improbable run, defeating the Jazz, the Suns, and the San Antonio Spurs to return to the finals. Their opponent was the Orlando Magic, a young team led by Shaquille O'Neal and Anthony Hardaway, 2 of the brightest young stars in the league.
Hakeem put on a clinic. In the finals, he averaged 32.8 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game. He swept the Magic in 4 games. He completely outplayed the younger, stronger Shaquille O'Neal, using footwork, skill, and intelligence to dominate every matchup. In one memorable sequence, Hakeem faked Shaq so thoroughly that the young center stumbled and fell to the ground. It was the Dream Shake at its finest. Hakeem won his 2nd straight championship and his 2nd Finals MVP award. When people think of Hakeem's legacy, they think of those back-to-back titles. But his impact went far beyond championships. He finished his career with
946 points, and 3,830 blocks, the most in NBA history at the time of his retirement. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2008. But more importantly, Hakeem showed the world that a player from Nigeria who had barely played basketball as a child could become one of the greatest centers ever. He opened a door that had been closed. After Hakeem, NBA teams began scouting Africa seriously. Players like Dikembe Mutombo, Serge Ibaka, Joel Embiid, and Pascal Siakam followed the path that Hakeem had cleared. Hakeem remained humble throughout his career and beyond. He never boasted, he never sought attention. He simply worked, believed, and honored the game that had given him so much. For a boy from Lagos who discovered basketball at 15, he achieved something that seemed impossible. And in doing so, he proved that dreams, no matter where they begin, can travel across oceans and become reality.
In the quiet city of Würzburg, Germany, a boy named Dirk Nowitzki was born on June 19, 1978. His parents were athletes. His mother, Helga, had played professional basketball in Germany. His father, Jörg Werner, was a handball player. Sports were in his blood, but in Germany, basketball was not the dominant game. Soccer was king. Handball had a following. Basketball was something played in smaller gyms, with less attention, fewer dreams attached to it. Dirk grew up tall and lanky, his height making him stand out even as a child. He tried tennis for a while, showing skill and coordination. But at 13 years old, a local basketball coach named Holger Gestvindner saw Dirk playing and recognized something special. Holger was not just a coach. He was a former professional player, a mathematician, a philosopher of the game. He saw in Dirk not just size, but grace, intelligence, and a willingness to learn. Holger approached Dirk and made him an offer. "Train with me, and I will show you how to become great." What followed was years of unconventional training. Holger did not coach Dirk in traditional ways. They practiced in empty gyms, sometimes outdoors. Holger taught Dirk about angles, geometry, physics. He made Dirk shoot from unusual positions, off balance, off one leg, in ways that seemed strange but were designed to make Dirk unpredictable. They worked on a signature move, a one-legged fadeaway jumper that would become Dirk's weapon. It looked awkward at first, but over time it became unguardable. Dirk spent his teenage years perfecting this craft in the German second division, far from the spotlight, unknown to the basketball world.
Then, in 1998, NBA scouts began hearing rumors about a 7-footer in Germany who could shoot like a guard. They traveled to watch him play. What they saw surprised them. Dirk was not a traditional big man. He did not play with his back to the basket. He did not rely on power. Instead, he faced up, shot from distance, moved fluidly. He was 19 years old, rail thin, with blonde hair and a shy demeanor. But the talent was undeniable. In the 1998 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks selected Dirk with the 9th pick, then immediately traded him to the Dallas Mavericks. Dirk arrived in Texas weighing barely 220 pounds, speaking broken English, overwhelmed by the speed and physicality of the NBA. In his first season, he struggled. He averaged 8.2 points per game. Fans and media questioned whether this European experiment would work. Some mocked his shooting form. Others doubted he could ever be tough enough for the NBA. But Dirk had Holger's voice in his head, and he had his own determination. Each summer, he returned to Germany to train with Holger. Each season, he came back stronger, more confident, more skilled. By his second year, he averaged 17.5 points. By his third year, he was an all-star. The Mavericks built a contender around him, pairing him with point guard Steve Nash and surrounding them with shooters and defenders. Dallas became one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
But there was frustration, too. Year after year, the Mavericks would dominate the regular season, then fall short in the playoffs. In 2006, Dallas had the best record in the league. They reached the NBA Finals to face the Miami Heat, led by Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal. The Mavericks took a 2-0 lead in the series. They were on the verge of winning the championship. Then everything collapsed. Miami won 4 straight games. The Mavericks lost the finals. Dirk was devastated. The criticism that followed was harsh. Analysts questioned Dirk's toughness, his leadership, his ability to win when it mattered most. The word soft was used repeatedly, a dismissive label applied to European players who did not fit the traditional mold of American basketball masculinity. Dirk heard it all. He felt the weight of it. For years afterward, the Mavericks continued to fall short. First-round exits, second-round disappointments. The narrative hardened. Dirk Nowitzki was a great regular season player who could not deliver in the playoffs. Then came 2011. The Mavericks entered the season as a veteran team, not favored to win anything. But something was different. Dirk, now 32 years old, had a quiet resolve. He was playing through pain, dealing with injuries, but he refused to let that stop him. The Mavericks made the playoffs as a lower seed. Nobody expected much from them. In the first round, they faced the Portland Trail Blazers and won in 6 games. Then came the second round, and their opponent was the Los Angeles Lakers, the 2-time defending champions, led by Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and coached by Phil Jackson. The Lakers were heavily favored. But Dallas shocked the world. Dirk scored 32 points in Game 1. The Mavericks swept the Lakers in 4 games, ending their reign. Next was the Western Conference Finals against the Oklahoma City Thunder, a young team with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. The Thunder pushed Dallas to 5 games, but Dirk was unstoppable. He hit clutch shot after clutch shot, his one-legged fadeaway falling through the net again and again. Dallas won the series and advanced to the NBA Finals. Their opponent was the Miami Heat, the same team that had beaten them in 2006. But this Miami team was different. They had just formed a super team, adding LeBron James and Bosh to play alongside Dwayne Wade. This trio of superstars was supposed to dominate the league for years. The Heat were overwhelming favorites. The finals began, and Miami took the first game in Miami. But Dirk was not going to let history repeat itself. In Game 2, Dirk woke up with a 101-degree fever. He looked weak in the first half, scoring only 2 points. But in the second half, something shifted. Dirk scored 24 points, hitting impossible shots, refusing to let his body fail him. Dallas won the game and tied the series. The series went back and forth. Every game was close, every possession mattered. In Game 4, with the series tied 2 games apiece, Dirk hit a 3-pointer in the final seconds to give Dallas the lead. They won the game. In Game 5, Miami won at home, forcing a Game 6 back in Dallas. The Mavericks would have one chance to close it out on their home floor. Game 6 was electric. The American Airlines Center in Dallas was shaking with noise. Dirk played through pain, through exhaustion, through years of doubt. He scored 21 points. His teammate Jason Terry added 27. The Mavericks won, 105-95. When the final buzzer sounded, Dirk fell into the arms of his teammates, tears streaming down his face. All the years of criticism, all the doubts, all the questions about his toughness, answered. Dirk Nowitzki was an NBA champion. He was named Finals MVP. In the post-game interview, Dirk could barely speak through his emotions. He had given everything to that moment. He had faced the biggest challenge of his career and emerged victorious. For Dallas, for Germany, for every European player who had been told they were not tough enough, Dirk had proven something profound. Skill, intelligence, and perseverance could overcome anything. But Dirk's story did not end there. He stayed in Dallas for the rest of his career. While other stars chased championships by joining super teams, Dirk remained loyal. He took pay cuts to help the team sign other players. He mentored younger players. He continued playing at a high level even as his body aged. In 2019, at 40 years old, Dirk announced that his 21st season would be his last. Every arena in the league gave him standing ovations. He finished his career with 31,560 points, the sixth highest total in NBA history. The Dallas Mavericks retired his number 14 jersey. They built a statue of him outside the arena, capturing his iconic one-legged fadeaway in bronze. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2023. But beyond the statistics and accolades, Dirk changed the game itself. He proved that 7-footers could be deadly shooters. He inspired a generation of European players, showing them that they could not only compete in the NBA, but dominate it.
Players like Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Kristaps Porzingis grew up watching Dirk, learning from his game, believing that they too could succeed. Dirk opened a door and held it open for everyone who came after him. He did it with grace, humility, and an unwavering love for the game. From the small gyms of Würzburg, Germany, to the biggest stage in basketball, Dirk Nowitzki's journey was a testament to the power of patience, hard work, and believing in yourself even when the world does not. In the coastal city of Bahia Blanca, Argentina, Emmanuel David Ginóbili was born on July 28, 1977. In Argentina, basketball had a following, but it was not the dominant sport. Soccer held that place, as it did across South America. Still, Manu, as he would come to be known, grew up in a basketball family. His two older brothers, Sebastian and Leandro, both played professionally in Argentina. Manu watched them, learned from them, and developed his own love for the game. From a young age, Manu had a style that was different. He was creative, unpredictable, willing to take risks that other players would not. He played with flair, with emotion, with a joy that was contagious. As a teenager, he began his professional career in the Argentine leagues, playing for Andino Sport Club and later Estudiantes de Bahia Blanca. He was talented, but Argentina was far from the NBA's radar. If Manu wanted to prove himself on a bigger stage, he would need to go to Europe.
In 1998, at 21 years old, Manu signed with Kinder Bologna in Italy's Serie A, one of the top leagues in Europe. There, he faced tougher competition, better players, higher expectations. He thrived. His game matured. He learned to play within a system while still maintaining his creativity. In 2001, Manu led his team to the EuroLeague Championship, the most prestigious club competition in Europe. He was named EuroLeague Finals MVP. At 23 years old, Manu Ginóbili was one of the best players in Europe, but the NBA was still an ocean away. In the 1999 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs had selected Manu with the 57th pick, the next-to-last pick in the entire draft. Most players picked that late never make an NBA roster. The Spurs, however, had one of the best scouting departments in the league, and they saw something special in Manu. They told him to stay in Europe, develop his game, and come to the NBA when he was ready. In 2002, Manu decided it was time. He signed with the San Antonio Spurs and joined a team that had already won a championship in 1999. The Spurs had Tim Duncan, one of the greatest power forwards in NBA history, and Tony Parker, a young, talented point guard from France. The pieces were in place for something special, and Manu would become the final piece of the puzzle. But there was a complication. Manu was 25 years old when he arrived, older than most rookies. He had been a star in Europe, a Finals MVP, a proven winner. And yet, Spurs coach Greg Popovich asked Manu to come off the bench. In the NBA, coming off the bench is often seen as a lesser role, reserved for players who are not good enough to start. For Manu, it could have been seen as an insult. He could have demanded a starting spot. He could have let his ego get in the way.
But Manu did not do that. He accepted the role with grace and humility. He understood that Popovich was asking him to sacrifice individual glory for the good of the team, and Manu believed in that philosophy. He believed in the Spurs culture, in their unselfish approach, in the idea that winning mattered more than personal accolades. So, Manu became the sixth man, the player who came off the bench to provide energy, scoring, and playmaking. In his first season, 2002 to 2003, Manu averaged 7.6 points per game. The Spurs won 60 games and entered the playoffs as one of the favorites. They advanced through the Western Conference, defeating the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Dallas Mavericks. In the finals, they faced the New Jersey Nets, led by Jason Kidd. The Spurs won the championship in 6 games. Manu, in his rookie season, was already an NBA champion. But that was only the beginning. Over the next decade, Manu became one of the most unique and impactful players in the league. His game was unconventional. He drove to the basket with reckless abandon, contorting his body in midair, absorbing contact, and somehow finishing through defenders. He took charges, diving in front of opposing players to draw offensive fouls. He made passes that seemed impossible, threading the ball through tiny windows. And he hit big shots in big moments, never afraid of the pressure.
In 2005, the Spurs won another championship, defeating the Detroit Pistons in a 7-game finals. Manu played a crucial role, especially in Game 5, which went to overtime. He hit three-pointers, made key defensive plays, and helped the Spurs escape with a victory. 2 years later, in 2007, the Spurs won again, this time sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers. Manu now had 3 championships, all while coming off the bench. By 2008, Manu had proven himself as one of the best players in the world, bench role or not. But his impact extended beyond the NBA. In 2004, Manu led the Argentine national team to the Olympic gold medal in Athens, Greece. They defeated the United States in the semifinals, a stunning upset that shocked the basketball world. Manu scored 29 points in that game, outplaying NBA superstars like Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, and LeBron James. For Argentina, for South America, it was a moment of immense pride. Manu had shown that international players could not only compete with the best, but defeat them. Back in the NBA, Manu continued to be the heart and soul of the Spurs. In 2009, during a game against the Sacramento Kings, a bat flew into the arena and started swooping around the court. Players and referees ducked and scattered. But Manu, with the reflexes and timing that made him a great defender, calmly swatted the bat out of the air with his bare hand. The moment became an internet sensation, a hilarious and surreal highlight that somehow perfectly captured Manu's fearless approach to everything.
As the years went on, the Spurs continued to compete for championships, but they also faced heartbreak. In 2013, they reached the finals against the Miami Heat. The series went to a dramatic Game 7, which Miami won. The following year, 2014, the Spurs and Heat met again in the finals. This time, the Spurs were not going to be denied. They played some of the most beautiful team basketball ever seen, moving the ball with precision and unselfish passing. Manu, now 36 years old, was still a vital part of the rotation. The Spurs won the championship in 5 games, and Manu earned his 4th ring. In 2016, Manu finally agreed to move into a starting role for part of the season, though he continued to embrace whatever role the team needed. He played until 2018, retiring at age 40 after 16 NBA seasons, all with the San Antonio Spurs. He finished with 14,043 points, 4,001 assists, and countless memories. The Spurs retired his number 20 jersey. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2022. But statistics only tell part of Manu's story. He revolutionized the sixth-man role, turning it into a position of honor and importance. He showed that creativity and risk-taking had a place in the structured world of professional basketball. He inspired generations of Latin American players, proving that they could thrive at the highest level. Players from Argentina like Facundo Campazzo and Gabriel Deck grew up idolizing Manu. They saw what he accomplished and believed they could follow in his footsteps. Beyond his individual success, Manu was part of one of the greatest teams ever assembled, the San Antonio Spurs of the 2000s. Alongside Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, Manu formed a big three that won 4 championships and redefined teamwork in the modern NBA.
What made Manu special was not just his skill, but his spirit. He played with joy, with passion, with a competitive fire that never dimmed. He sacrificed for his teammates, accepted roles that others would have rejected, and did whatever it took to win. From the courts of Bahia Blanca to the rafters of the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Manu Ginóbili's journey was a celebration of selflessness, creativity, and the pure love of the game. He proved that greatness comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most important player is not the one who scores the most points, but the one who makes everyone around him better. In a modest neighborhood of Athens, Greece, a boy named Giannis Antetokounmpo was born. On December 6, 1994, his parents, Charles and Veronica, had emigrated to Greece from Nigeria, searching for a better life, for opportunities that their homeland could not provide. But life in Greece was not easy. The family lived in poverty, struggling to make ends meet. Giannis and his four brothers helped however they could, selling watches, sunglasses, and handbags on the streets of Athens to tourists and locals, trying to earn enough money to help their parents pay rent and buy food. Greece, during those years, was facing its own economic crisis. Jobs were scarce. Anti-immigrant sentiment was growing. The Antetokounmpo family, as undocumented immigrants, lived in constant fear of deportation. Giannis could not even obtain Greek citizenship, despite being born in the country. He was stateless, without a passport, without legal recognition. His world was small, confined to his neighborhood, his family, and the daily struggle to survive.
But in that difficult environment, Giannis found basketball. One of his older brothers, Thanasis, started playing in a local youth league for a team called Philathletikos. Giannis would tag along, watching from the sidelines. Coaches noticed him. He was tall, even as a young teenager, with long arms and big hands. They invited him to join the team. Giannis had never played organized basketball before, but he was a natural athlete. He learned quickly, absorbing every lesson, working harder than anyone else. By the time Giannis was 17, he was playing in Greece's second division with Philathletikos. He was raw, unpolished, but scouts from around the world were starting to hear about this lanky teenager with an unpronounceable name. NBA scouts traveled to Greece to watch him play. What they saw was potential, enormous potential, but also risk. Giannis had almost no game footage. He had not played against elite competition. He was skinny, weighing barely 190 pounds. But his wingspan measured 7 feet 3 inches, and he moved like a guard despite being nearly 7 feet tall. In the 2013 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks took a chance. They selected Giannis with the 15th pick. He was 18 years old, had never left Greece before, and spoke almost no English. When he arrived in Milwaukee, everything was overwhelming. The food, the language, the pace of the game, it was all so different from what he had known. In his rookie season, Giannis averaged just 6.8 points and 4.4 rebounds per game. He barely played, spending most games on the bench, trying to learn, trying to adapt. But Giannis was determined. Every summer, he worked with trainers to add strength to his frame. He studied film, learning the nuances of NBA basketball. He practiced his ball handling, his shooting, his footwork. Slowly, season by season, he improved. In his second year, he averaged 12.3 points. In his third year, 16.9 points. By his fourth season, 2016 to 2017, Giannis was an all-star, averaging 22.9 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. People began calling him the Greek Freak, a nickname that celebrated his unique combination of size, speed, and skill. Giannis embraced it. He was not offended by the label. He wore it with pride. The Bucks were building their team around him, adding shooters, defenders, and veterans who could help him grow. But the road to greatness is never smooth. In 2018 to 2019, Giannis had a breakout season. He averaged 27.7 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. He led the Bucks to the best record in the NBA, 60 wins and only 22 losses. He won the Most Valuable Player award, becoming the first player from Greece to earn that honor. The Bucks entered the playoffs as the favorites to win the championship.
But they fell short. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Toronto Raptors defeated the Bucks in 6 games. Giannis was devastated. The following season, 2019 to 2020, Giannis won the MVP award again, along with the Defensive Player of the Year award. He was the best player in the league, dominant on both ends of the floor. But in the playoffs, the Bucks lost again, this time in the second round to the Miami Heat. The criticism was immediate and harsh. Analysts questioned whether Giannis could ever lead a team to a championship. They pointed to his lack of a reliable jump shot, his struggles in the half-court offense, his inability to close out big games. Giannis heard all of it. The doubts, the questions, the suggestions that he should leave Milwaukee and join a bigger market, a better team. Other superstars were doing exactly that, forming super teams in Los Angeles, Miami, and Brooklyn. But Giannis did something unexpected. In December of 2020, he signed a 5-year Supermax contract extension with the Bucks, committing his future to the team that had drafted him, to the city that had embraced him. He said he wanted to win a championship the hard way by building something special in Milwaukee. The 2020 to 2021 season was his chance to prove it. The Bucks had a strong regular season, finishing with the third-best record in the Eastern Conference. The playoffs began, and Giannis was playing at an incredible level. In the first round, the Bucks defeated the Miami Heat in a sweep, exacting revenge for the previous year's loss. In the second round, they faced the Brooklyn Nets, a super team with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. The series was brutal, going to 7 games, but the Bucks survived.
Then came the Eastern Conference Finals against the Atlanta Hawks. In Game 4, Giannis drove to the basket and landed awkwardly. His left knee hyperextended, bending backward in a way that knees are not supposed to bend. He collapsed to the floor in agony. The arena went silent. Giannis had to be helped off the court. The injury looked devastating. Many feared his season was over, possibly even his career in jeopardy. But Giannis refused to accept that outcome. He rehabbed intensely, working around the clock with the Bucks medical staff. Against all odds, he returned for Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns, just 9 days after the injury. He was not at full strength, but he was on the court. The Suns won the first game. They won the second game too, taking a 2-0 lead in the series. The Bucks were on the brink, but Giannis would not let his team fall. In Game 3, back in Milwaukee, he scored 41 points and grabbed 13 rebounds. The Bucks won. In Game 4, he scored 26 points. The Bucks won again. The series was tied. Game 5 went to Phoenix, and the Suns won, taking a 3-2 lead in the series. The Bucks needed to win the next 2 games, or the season was over. Game 6 was in Milwaukee, and the city was electric. The arena was shaking. Giannis came out with a ferocity that could not be contained. He attacked the basket relentlessly,
drawing fouls, scoring through contact. He grabbed rebounds on both ends of the floor. He blocked shots, protecting the rim like a guardian. When the game ended, Giannis had scored 50 points, grabbed 14 rebounds, and blocked 5 shots. 50 points in a closeout game of the NBA Finals. The Bucks won 105-98. Giannis Antetokounmpo was an NBA champion.
He fell to the floor in tears, overwhelmed by emotion. His brothers rushed onto the court to embrace him. His teammates piled on top of him. The journey from selling watches on the streets of Athens to holding the Larry O'Brien Championship trophy seemed impossible, but it was real. Giannis was named Finals MVP, averaging 35.2 points, 13.2 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in the series. In the post-game interview, Giannis spoke about his journey, about his family, about the struggles they had faced. He said he could not have imagined this moment when he was a child, hungry and uncertain of the future. But he also said that he believed in hard work, in loyalty, in doing things the right way. He had stayed in Milwaukee when others told him to leave. He had trusted his teammates, his coaches, and the process, and now he was a champion. The celebration that followed was unlike anything Milwaukee had seen in 50 years, since the Bucks' only other championship in 1971. Hundreds of thousands of fans lined the streets for a parade. Giannis rode through the city on a bus, holding the trophy high, tears still streaming down his face. He stopped at a Chick-fil-A restaurant, ordering 50 chicken nuggets to celebrate, a moment that went viral and showed his humble, playful nature even in triumph.
But Giannis's story continues. He did not rest on that championship. The following seasons, he continued to improve, adding a more reliable mid-range jump shot, refining his free throw shooting, becoming an even more complete player. In 2021 to 2022, he averaged 29.9 points, 11.6 rebounds, and 5.8 assists per game. The Bucks remained contenders, though they fell short of another championship that year. Still, Giannis's legacy was already secure. He had done what many thought impossible. He had lifted a small market team to a championship. He had stayed loyal when loyalty seemed old-fashioned. He had overcome poverty, statelessness, and doubt to become one of the greatest players of his generation. He won 2 MVP awards, a Finals MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year award, and multiple All-NBA selections. But more importantly, he represented hope. For every child growing up in difficult circumstances, in refugee camps, in immigrant communities, in places where dreams seem impossible, Giannis showed that perseverance and belief can overcome anything. His family, once struggling to survive in Athens, now lives in comfort and security because of what Giannis achieved. His parents were eventually granted Greek citizenship. His brothers also play basketball professionally. The Antetokounmpo name, once unknown, is now celebrated worldwide.
Giannis remains humble through it all. He still speaks about his struggles with gratitude rather than bitterness. He credits his parents for their sacrifices, his brothers for their support, and the city of Milwaukee for believing in him. He has used his platform to give back, supporting communities in Greece, Nigeria, and Milwaukee. He has started charitable foundations, built basketball courts, and inspired countless young people to chase their dreams. When people talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, they talk about his athleticism, his length, his ability to dominate games. But those who know his story understand that his greatest attribute is not physical. It is his heart. It is his refusal to give up, his willingness to work when others rest, his belief that anything is possible if you are willing to sacrifice for it. From the streets of Athens to the top of the basketball world, Giannis proved that where you start does not determine where you finish. His journey is still being written. He is only in his late 20s, still in his prime, still adding to his legacy. But even if he never wins another championship, even if he never scores another point, Giannis Antetokounmpo has already achieved something timeless. He has shown the world that dreams do not have borders, that talent can emerge from anywhere, and that loyalty and hard work still matter in an age when they seem to be fading values. For a boy who once did not have a country to call his own, Giannis now belongs to the world. His story transcends basketball. It is a story about family, about resilience, about the power of hope. And for anyone who doubts themselves, who feels that their circumstances are too difficult, who wonders if they can ever overcome the obstacles in their path, Giannis's life offers a simple but profound answer. Yes, you can. Keep working, keep believing, keep moving forward. The journey may be long, the road may be difficult, but the destination is worth every step. 4 journeys across oceans, across continents, across impossible distances. Hakeem from Lagos, learning basketball at 15 and becoming a champion at 31. Dirk from Würzburg, working in empty gyms and silencing every doubt with a fadeaway jumper. Manu from Bahia Blanca, sacrificing stardom for team success and redefining what it means to be great. Giannis from Athens, rising from poverty to prove that loyalty and perseverance still lead to glory. These are not just basketball stories. They are human stories. Stories of courage, of faith, of refusing to accept limitations. As you drift into sleep tonight, let their legacies remind you that dreams, no matter how distant, are always worth chasing. Rest now, and know that somewhere in the world, another young player is beginning their own impossible journey. Good night.